Intentional motherhood seasoned with grace. Reheat your coffee for the third time today and pull up a chair with your new mom friends, Christy and Jamie. This is Motherhood on Purpose. Welcome back to Motherhood on Purpose. We are here with Jamie from Simply Living It and me, Christy, from One Blessed Mess. And today we are going to be talking all about perfectionism. And I know that this is a topic that a lot of women, not only moms, but just women and just people in general struggle with. Yes. So we're going to be covering a lot of ground in this little podcast here. So perfectionism, perfectionism is one of those things that really flies in the face of God and our relationship with him. And it is an unnecessary yoke that we place on our backs that Jesus already died and paid for. So it can affect so many different parts of our lives, whether that is our mothering, homeschooling, our marriages, just our relationships with people. It is this
friendships.
Friendships. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can lead to people pleasing. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to not relying on God. It can lead to a false facade that we are putting out there for other people, and the inability to really be vulnerable and to really share our struggles and be vulnerable with God even, and honest with God about what we're struggling with. This inability to see that we are doing anything wrong. It just leads down so many bad paths in our lives.
Yes. And the shame.
Yes.
And the anxiety.
Yes.
And then what it's putting on our children.
Oh, yes.
There's this perfectionism encompasses so many areas and avenues. And I think a lot of it, like we talk about a lot here on this podcast, because the reality of it is there is social media. So the reality of it is there are good and bad that come with that. That's just the way it is. And so I think a lot of this perfectionism can come from those Pinterest worthy pins, right? So this Pinterest perfect kitchen, this Pinterest perfect bedroom, and this huge house that's just Pinterest perfect and clean all the time. And this marriage that is perfect, and these children that are perfect, and this body that is perfect. We're supposed to, I saw this somewhere and I don't remember where I saw it, so I can't even give credit where credit is due. So forgive me for that. But somebody had posted something along the lines of, we are, moms, right? So we're happy and grateful and all excited to have these babies, and we're supposed to have babies, but not look like we had babies. So the body shaming, right? The body shaming, and we need to have this perfect body. Absolutely. And perfect, everything, anything and everything. It can wrap and engulf to everything. And some women, I have friends actually who don't really deal with this weight of perfectionism. And I find it so incredibly amazing. It is something I very much do deal with. And I am a people pleaser. I am. Me too. I love people and I love to please people. I'm a peacemaker. I am. I have a lot of shame tied to a lot of different areas and avenues for my life, in my life, that I am still working through. That all of this goes in a nice little box with a bow on it. They're all tied together. And it's such a crazy thing, but I want to share this book with you guys. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection. If you follow over on Instagram, you will see me share this multiple times. And if you can't tell, you probably can't, because it's really like super bright, but I have underlined, I have 2 pins in here. If that doesn't tell you how much I refer to this book. And my pages are like folded like crazy and everything is marked up, because you guys, this book has just spoken volumes to me in my life. And the gifts of imperfection, being authentic, being vulnerable, being real, being who you are, letting go of everything else and just resting in who God created you to be. And being, for one, how do we, just a question and food for thought, how do we expect people to be real and vulnerable and authentic with us if we're not putting that out? If we're putting up a facade, how many other moms are feeling like they need to put up a facade because that's what we're doing? Like just something to think about. If we're always portraying perfection on our end, how many other moms are also feeling that they're not it's just a nugget of feelings all wrapped in and of itself. To dissect that is a hard one to dissect, but I want to share this thing that I underlined really quick in regards to perfectionism. It says perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It is a shield. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact, it is the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight. Perfectionism is at its core about trying to earn approval and acceptance. And I could go on with this forever about the self-destructive, addictive belief of perfectionism. And this is just a huge thing. And that's another quote really quick. Hold up. I just flipped the page. I'm like, oh, there's another one.
I'm like, I'm going to church over here.
Did you get this book?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yes. This book is, and it goes,
it's really
into
good.
So many different, oh my goodness. This one and Present Over Perfect are like my books that I go to in so many different seasons, because there's such good information in these. This quote specifically: perfectionism never happens in a vacuum. It touches everyone around us. We pass it down to our children. We infect our workplace with impossible expectations, and it's suffocating for our friends and families. Thankfully, compassion also spreads quickly. When we're kind to ourselves, we create a reservoir of compassion that we can extend to others. Our children learn how to be self-compassionate by watching us, and the people around us feel free to be authentic and connected. So it's crazy to think about when we are putting this weight and this yoke around ourselves to be perfect, right? We have to be perfect. We have to look perfect. My house has to be perfectly clean. We have company over. I can't have urine on the toilets. Like, hello, mama boys, wipe the toilets down, hurry. Can't have hair in the sink. Can't have, you got to, no dishes in the sink. Everything has to be perfect, and it needs to smell fresh and clean. And hello, we live here.
Right.
We live here. Right. And I don't want to choose to put everything in my house and this facade of perfection up, because that's just going to hinder relationships with friends. I feel there's such a barrier that gets put up and a wall that gets put up when we're putting up this, everything's perfect, I'm perfect, life's fine, even if it's not about me, myself being perfect. But if I can't be perfect, I'm going to make everything around me perfect. Okay. I'm going to control everything around me, and it's going to look perfect,
It's control. Yeah.
So yes, control. That's a whole other level that we could dissect.
We got another episode. There's another episode brewing here.
Girl, like these just keep coming, but there's so many avenues that perfectionism can go down, just like distractions. And those go hand in hand.
They absolutely do.
Perfectionism leads to distraction. Because I'm trying to be perfect at this right here, I'm going to be distracted from this right here.
Right.
Because this is trying to be perfect. And it's something in marriage. Okay. We're not doing anybody, newlyweds, people who've been married for 30 years, we are not doing anybody any favors by portraying a perfect marriage.
No,
we're not doing anybody any favors by portraying a perfect image of our homes, of our space. And now for some people, maybe organizing is their gift. Like, I'm just going to say, we all have different gifts and different talents and things that bring us joy, right? In those cases. Organization is not my thing. I can try all day long to be organized. It's not my thing. So for those who that is your gift, like I totally, this is not about that at all. This is just simply those of us who can carry a weight of portraying perfectionism, the anxiety that it creates when we're trying to be perfect. We're not being true to us and to who we are when we're trying to portray this perfectionism. And it's felt in friendships, like you said, it's felt in our homes, it's felt in relationships and family circles. We need to break down those walls and just sit with each other and talk and be real. Like, get rid of all this perfectionism. With marriages, sit and talk with your sisters and have healthy conversations about marriage, because this isn't about talking down and falling into that trap of the negative side of things. This is simply, marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage can be hard. Let's have healthy conversations and build each other up, just as in motherhood, just as in homeschooling and in parenting. and in family relationships. Like there's so many walls that can come crumbling down. And when they finally do, that's when you are real and true
Absolutely.
to who you are and being authentic and giving that out. And that's what you get back.
Right.
When we put them up, everybody else puts them up, and it's not a healthy thing at all.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Christy, talk to me for a minute about perfectionism in your life.
I know nothing.
Maybe areas.
I know nothing about this.
I am
if there
perfect,
is
and
one,
I have arrived.
Yeah. I am perfect. I mean, perfectionism. Hi. No, this has been probably one of my single biggest struggles in my life, and it has affected everything in my life ever since I was a small child. And I shared on my testimony during our first episode that as a kid, I was an overachiever, and I measured my worth by what I was good at. And if I wasn't naturally good at something, I didn't even attempt it. I just completely shut down and didn't even strive to better myself in an area where maybe I was falling short, because I wanted to always be just really, really good at stuff. Yes. And carrying over into that weight, it just kept building on my back as the years went through. And then as a teenager, I just completely broke. And then all of a sudden I went the complete opposite way, where I just didn't even care how I was portraying myself anymore. And I was completely self-destructive. So perfectionism has wreaked havoc in my life. And as a mom, there was just this whole new level of perfectionism that is an everyday struggle to fight through. And with social media being what it is a whole new level of perfectionism. Because even when I was in school, Facebook didn't come out until I was a senior in high school. So social media wasn't what it is now for me back then. And it was hard enough, trying to live
Can you
up to
imagine? Can you imagine if it was?
I don't know if I would have made it.
I'm
Jamie.
so
I don't know if I would have made it.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I agree
110,000%.
There's no way I would have made it through school with social media being a thing. So these kids are dealing with a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
A whole nother level of struggle. But I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just had to say, I just had to say, even and now.
I completely agree. And so as a mom, as an adult now, I wish I could say that, oh yeah, that was like how I was when I was younger, but it's still something that I struggle with very, very deeply. And as a Christian, it is hard for me to accept sometimes that I cannot earn my salvation. That's a hard one for me to digest sometimes, because I'm such a performance driven person, and I always have been. And so unlearning that, renewing my mind to unlearn that performance driven self-worth is something that I struggle with very, very deeply as a mom. And so one of the things that I have had to remind myself of on a daily basis is that hard doesn't mean that it's bad. Like imperfect doesn't mean that it's bad. So if my homeschool day is not going the way, like I'm just going to say straight up, we had our first day of homeschool this past Monday, and then my daughter got sick. And I'm a ball of anxiety because she was really sick and nothing is going right. Nothing is going how I had planned out in my mind, how I had it mapped out. And so I just scrapped the rest of the week, and we are starting fresh on Monday. My homeschool isn't perfect, but being able to recognize that imperfect doesn't mean that it isn't worth it has been something that I have had to learn, because nothing in life is perfect. It is this unattainable standard that isn't even God's standard for me, isn't based off of what I do. God's standard for me is based off of what his son has already done, and he did it perfectly. So I didn't have to, because he knew I couldn't do it perfectly. So reminding myself of those truths is something that helps me to power through the day sometimes when I'm just feeling so low, so badly about myself, my capabilities as a mom, as a homeschool mom, as a wife even. yeah, like you were saying, marriage is not perfect, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. It doesn't mean that it isn't good and that it isn't
Absolutely.
something that we should be investing in, because it absolutely is. And I think that that is one of the reasons why marriage is just kind of given up on anymore, is because these people see this unattainable standard of marriage. They don't see what's going on behind closed doors. They don't see the tearful fights. They
Yeah.
don't see the internal struggles in each human heart, because our human hearts are so wicked in and of themselves,
Yeah.
that there are just these things that when two people come together to become one, it is a struggle. It is a very big struggle.
Speaking of marriage, there's my husband and I actually right now are doing a marriage course with a couple other families, and it has been an amazing, beautiful thing. It has been so amazing. So Sunday nights we meet at 6 o'clock. We have dinner together, and we just talk and share, whatever's going on our hearts, whatever we want to talk about. It's very relaxed, very low key.
Yes.
And we all meet on the couch and we sit down and we watch this. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. And it's old. It's old. And so it's like kind of, funny to watch, but it's DVD based.
Yeah.
You might have. I
feel like
but
Derek and I might have
talks-
watched a couple of those before.
Okay. Is there a lot of like sexual stuff? Because if so, then yes. But in the sense of how it's all tied together.
Right.
How everything is tied together, and how different the male brain is versus the female brain, and how we work in such different ways. And as far as connecting, what the male needs for connection versus what the female needs for connection. And it's so incredibly beautiful. And it's been so good for our marriage to have this time that we get to go, just the two of us. I look forward to driving the 30 minutes with my husband. I look forward to the drive. I look forward to the drive home. He has been grateful that we've been going to this. We've never done anything like this before. We never have. But now I'm like, I want more of this. I want to do this more. This is very biblical. It's very biblical. And it's beautiful. It's been such a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful to these women who are putting this on and hosting this for us, because it's been such a wonderful, intimate experience, like with these women and their husbands as well. And just coming together in a room and talking about the struggles of marriage. And just like you said, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. I think in today's society, there's a lot of things getting put out there that when we hit some struggles, well, it must be wrong. It must not be the right person. It must not be, he must not be the one, because it's been, that's not true. That's a lie. And that is not true, because just because, like you said, something is hard doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's not going to be easy. Marriage is not going to be easy. We were never told from the beginning marriage would be easy. Marriage is hard, but it's beautiful. It is such a gift. Motherhood is hard. Yes. Motherhood is hard. It is such a gift.
Absolutely.
Okay. Parenting, all of it, relationships, everything. This can engulf everything. But going back to the perfectionist and the perfectionism side of things is again, closing off, right? Closing off and putting out this facade that everything's perfect and everything's fine when it's not. And I'm good at that, just in family relationships. I am very much, I clam up. I'm an empath. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a peacemaker. I will clam up and hold everything in and just put a smile on my face and act like it's all fine.
Right.
Because that's what I feel I have to do for me and for my situation and in different family circumstances. Is that the most healthy thing to do? Probably not. But I'm learning how to have those boundaries. I'm learning how to set boundaries, healthy boundaries, which is something we can talk about in another episode too. I just feel like there are things that we have to do, yes, in the form of protecting ourselves.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But we also have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be seen and to be heard as well. Because if not, that's where the anxiety comes in, that's tied into perfectionism, and the shame that we're going to carry because we're not perfect and we're not doing it well. There's, like you said, it just encompasses so many things and can come, like you've experienced, from childhood. and then carry that into marriage, and it bleeds into other things.
Yes,
it bleeds into our
absolutely.
kids. My kids know when I'm starting to get anxious because we've got
Mhm.
something we've got to do, and I'm a perfectionist, and they feel it, and they know, like they
Yeah.
know, they feel it.
Right.
Everybody feels it. It's felt everywhere. And to me, that's just going back to, it talks about in this book, bondage, going back into bondage. And we're doing that ourselves. We're putting that on ourselves. We don't have to live our lives that way. We can let everything go and just be who we are and embrace who we are, and not fall to that yoke of slavery, truly.
Right.
And for me, one thing I've wanted to, that I've been struggling with is when I very first became a Christian, right? I have friends who can speak verses. They know they could pull out any story of the Bible and quote scripture like left and right. They are so knowledgeable. And I wanted that so bad. I wanted that. So here I am trying to seek that in relationship and in all the things, and trying to memorize verses and do all this, which is not all in and of itself bad. But then I'm losing that relationship side. Like we were talking about in our last episode, the distractions, being distracted. I was distracted by wanting all these other things that he's like, this just comes from knowing me,
Right.
being in relationship with me. I was trying to be further along in my faith than I was. That's not being authentic. That's not being real. I'm still learning and growing and will till the day I die. Like, it's just the way it is. That's how we are designed. I'm not meant to be where she's at, and she's not meant to be where I'm at. And it's just, it's an unfair advantage. It's an unfair weight that we're putting on ourselves, that we were never asked to carry.
Right.
We never were. And your faith journey is a very individual thing. It's going to look different for you than it might for somebody else. That's just the way it is. So I have learned in and of myself, in that perfectionism side, when I call myself a Christian, I am a Christian, knowing and trusting it's okay to be where I'm at in my walk with Jesus. It's okay to be right here where I'm at, because it's my journey. It's my relationship with Jesus. And for my kids, this is something I'm learning right now. Their relationship with Jesus is their relationship.
Yes.
It's not
absolutely.
mine. It's not my relationship. I can't put that on them. It's their own relationship with Jesus. And that's something that's just continuously like being revealed to me too, and encouraging them in their relationship with him to get to know him, because my relationship with him is mine. It's our sweet relationship. Theirs will be theirs. It will be different. It won't look like mine. It won't be the same. So there's a lot of different things that tie into perfectionism and shame and anxiety and guilt.
Absolutely.
And when we can let that all go, So talk to me, girl. I went down a whole rabbit trail and don't even know where we started now. And you're froze. So there's that.
Great. I'm just going to stand
I'm
like a
just talking to
statue the
my
whole
sweet-
way.
And I think that's distracting me. Yes. I'm like, Christy, where you go? Where you go? But you're back. I've got you now.
Good.
So,
okay.
I lost my train of thought when I was going down all of that, because it went a whole nother direction than I was even.
That's just the thing, is perfectionism. It's so encompassing, because so much of it is this seeking approval from others, that we are these good people, that we are these successful people, that we are these beautiful people. We are looking to others to get that validation, and we're looking in the wrong places for that validation. That's how so much of my perfectionism was rooted in that as a child and as a young adult, is that seeking that validation from other people at the root of it, and not knowing what God's design for me was, and that he's the one that refines me, and that he is most glorified in my weakness. Like Jesus is most glorified in my weakness, because he did all of it. That is why he even hung on that cross. Why else would he have hung on the cross if I was this completely perfect and just tied up with a bow kind of person? That it would have been for nothing. And it just flies in the face of the gospel and what the gospel is. So when we are real with other moms, when we are real with our friends, when we are real with our families about where we're at, I think something really beautiful is born out of that. This honesty is born out of that. And when we can be honest with God about where we're at, like, God, help me. I am just not having faith right now.
Yes.
I don't have the faith right now
Yes.
to get through this. You are going to have to help me through this. Or God, I am having so much anxiety right now. And I know it's wrong. I know I should be trusting in you, but I just can't. I just don't have the capacity for it right now. Please help me to get through these next moments.
Yes.
Just being at a place of complete and utter reliance on God for all of it is the way that we should be living our lives. But unfortunately, our flesh says differently. And it's this constant battle between our spiritual aspects of ourselves, this Holy Spirit that's living inside of us, and our flesh that wants so badly to be exalted. We want so badly to be exalted. And being in the public, sphere, like, we're not celebrities or anything like that, but it is hard to be completely 100% vulnerable on social media when you have people that are looking to you for guidance on things, because there are times I don't have the answer. Like, there are things that I am I struggle with, and so it is hard to be vulnerable and to show those uglier sides of me, because I always want to present this put together person that has answers. But when I am honest about not having those answers, when I am honest about the fact that it's like, girl, I'm right there with you. Like, I can't even pretend to know the answer to this question. Like, I'm just right there with you. There's this friendship and this relationship that's born out of not this place of like, I'm up here and you're down here, but this place of we are in this together. It is hard. Motherhood is hard. It's beautiful. There's so much joy to be had. There are so many victories that we can cheer each other on in. And I think you touched on that too, where some people are just naturally inclined to excel in certain areas where we might not. And sometimes we see that as a threat. Sometimes we see that as, oh, well, I'm just not a good mom because she's way more organized than I am. And I'm just not like that. My house does not look like that. So therefore, she's a better mom. That's just not true. And that is a complete lie from Satan to try to steal that joy from motherhood that he has for us, that God has for us, because God has given us these beautiful gifts and we're not going to do it perfectly. And so much of that is going to be us apologizing when we mess up and being able to own the fact that we are imperfect. And therefore, our kids are going to know mom and dad weren't perfect. They were good to us, though, and they loved us and they did their best and they followed God for guidance in everything that they did. And they're going to be able to grow up with this healthy view of what being a Christian is, or what being a mom or a father is, because they saw this imperfect person just trying to depend on God for the strength to be able to make decisions, or to be able to parent, or to be able to love correctly, because so much of our actions are sometimes rooted in these unhealthy habits that we've learned throughout the years. And being able to renew it. Being able to allow our minds to be renewed from that. Sometimes I think we hold on to these things because it's all we know, and there's comfort in that. But sometimes I think getting into that uncomfortable spot where you can be like, okay, I know this isn't healthy and this just isn't working. God, renew my mind, because I can't do it. I can't do it myself. I think, perfectionism, it is just one of those things that it really infiltrates every aspect of our lives.
I have one experience I want to talk about really quick in regards to perfectionism and our children. So this is, starting back up homeschooling. So this is a homeschooling conversation, but it goes into motherhood also. Yes. So I don't think it's, just for homeschool moms. I think it's a lesson that we all can learn something from. But currently speaking, as we're filming this, I have been dealing with a lot of, I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but just a lot of feelings. Things aren't going the way I was hoping in our first week of school, right? Yes. That's how it goes. we have in our mind and our idea, all these, I've been planning all summer long how this is going to go. And I had all my stuff figured out and I thought it was going to be great. Perfectionism, maybe. Yes. Thought it was going to be great. Right. Had all my stuff ready and we started and it was not what I had planned. And it was such a struggle for me from certain curriculum pieces that we brought in that are not going to work. And it's not a matter of, sometimes things are hard and that doesn't mean they're bad, like we talked earlier, but this is, I know this isn't going to work for us. I know I need to make changes. This has been a weight on my shoulders all week long. And I still haven't finalized what I'm going to do. In my mind, I still need to get it ordered. I still need to get it on its way because what are we going to do next week if we don't have it? How am I going to make this work? All of those feelings. And yesterday it just left me so incredibly overwhelmed and so incredibly drained. And I felt so defeated. And I want to share this because it was such a beautiful moment. And some of you moms may have had your kids do this before. I had not. I'm just going to be real. This was my first time ever doing this. But in that perfectionism, meeting our kids and saying, guys, I am really, really, really struggling. I am struggling. I'm feeling like I'm not doing a good job. I said these words out of my mouth. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job homeschooling you guys. And there are moms who come to our channels for advice and wisdom and all the things. And it's like, I'm not kidding when I say we've been doing this 9 years. This is going to get me emotional, and I still feel the weight of I'm not doing it good enough. I'm not doing it right. I'm messing up my children. I still feel that weight. And yesterday was too much for me. It was too much. And to be able to sit with my kids in the living room and say, you guys, I need help. I need wisdom, and to just pray, God, please lead us and guide us, show us the resources you want in our home and in our homeschool. And so we had this conversation, a healthy conversation about where I was as their mom, breaking down and saying, I am dealing with this and this and this. Guys, I just want you to know I'm here. I'm your mom. I'm broken right now. And it's okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to figure it out. To be real with our children, to be vulnerable with our children. This isn't just for the rest of the world to see, right? To make ourselves vulnerable to everybody else, but in our own homes, with our spouses, to text my husband and say, babe, please pray for me because I am really, really, really lost right now. And what does he say? Babe, you do this every year. You'll be just fine. You're amazing. Like he knows me, he knows, but it led to this moment last night where, and I know yoga is kind of taboo, whatever, but for me, it's a spiritual thing. I love to just stretch and rest and sit and put on this music that is so peaceful and so calming and so relaxing to me. And it gets me emotional every time, even in a stinking yoga studio. I'll be the one that's like, nobody look at me. Sorry. Like I use this time. There is no time like that time where I can just sit and breathe and feel him so close to me. And it's so overwhelming and so beautiful all at the same time to just allow ourselves to rest, to be broken, to feel what we need to feel, to get it out.
Yes.
Because here I feel I owe it to these moms to show up. Like I got to have it all figured out. No, I don't, I actually don't. And there's beauty that comes from saying, I don't, I'm a mess. I'm only a week in and everything's off the table. Like, what are we even doing?
Right.
And the moment that I'm coming to is this right here. We went to bed. We sat down. We said prayer. And I just had earlier in the day said, boys, when you say your prayers, can you just pray for me? So we sat down and I prayed to God and I started crying and I got emotional. And the boys, every single one of them, after I finished, they all said a prayer for me. And if you have not done that with your kids, when you are struggling with something, to hear your babies pray for you,
it's beautiful,
is the most amazing, beautiful thing ever. Like it touched me so much, every single one of them. And I just want to encourage you in all of this, in your days, whatever it looks like, allow yourself to be vulnerable for your babies. Let your kids see you be real, because what are we doing for them if everything we are doing is a facade? We are doing them no favors if we're portraying marriage as this beautiful thing that there's no struggles. We are doing them no favors if we are making our house this, I don't want to say temple, that's not the right word, but if we're making it look so perfect when we're bringing people into it, what are we putting on our kids' weight that they're going to carry for the rest of their lives of this perfectionism? And so I just want to encourage you moms, that was something I'll never forget. I've never done that before. I've never got to hear each of my kids individually out of their own hearts and their own relationship out loud vocalize a prayer for me. Like, it was the most beautiful, amazing thing. And so when we allow ourselves to be broken, look at what beauty comes from that. It truly does. He can work in that. And when we are vulnerable with him, like you said earlier, when we can come to him and say, God, I'm struggling right here. Help me. He already knows, he already sees it. But when we can say it to him, when we can let that down and say, God, please help me deal with this. Help me in any and every way, please, like, breathe life back into these bones of mine.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful and so powerful and so healing. And that's just like you always said, where he can be glorified. Those are his moments. Those are the moments where he can come in and work and clean up and sweep out the cobwebs and whatever it needs to be. And so I know that's kind of a rabbit trail distraction. I'm good at doing that, but that was so, like, I so needed to share that, because if you have not
That's
experienced
beautiful.
that before, in that being vulnerable with, we're talking about perfectionism, we're talking about all of it. Our kids are watching us too. Our kids are looking at us. It's not this social media world as much as it is in our home. Our babies are watching us. So allow yourselves to be real, allow yourselves to be vulnerable, apologize to our kids when we mess up, ask them for forgiveness. Just grow and nurture those relationships with our children, because that's where everything bleeds from. We need to invest in these relationships.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's such beauty in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable on that level. So
Absolutely.
I was not expecting to get emotional with that, but
No,
I'm not kidding.
It's beautiful. No, that is beautiful. You made me tear up. I almost started
And
blubbering.
if we want to talk about Aunt Flo, she's long gone. This is not related to Flo. We just got to bring that in, because I know us women sometimes have a harder time dealing with emotions, but I'm like, this is just
No.
God and my heart.
It
Like,
is
this
God.
is
It is God.
like,
God. Yeah. Yep. I know.
no. Okay. So coming in hot. Oh, Christy, what else do you have that you want to add on this whole topic of perfectionism? What do you have that you want to add to this?
I think sometimes perfectionism can be like a double-edged sword, where we recognize it in ourselves, but at the same time, we want to be perfect about being imperfect too. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
that is like another thing. It's just, we become like hyper focused on, okay, well, like, I can't do anything like really, really good because this is my perfectionism, or is this, not being, authentic about things. And so I want to just say too, that God works in us, and it's okay to have victories. It's okay to shine in an area of motherhood or homeschooling. We all have our different strengths, and it is okay to be able to display those strengths that God has given us, and that he works through us, and those victories. I think as moms, we need to be more supportive of that, and really speak life into these women who are like, who have these different gifts that are just a blessing, and as well as speaking life into the women who may struggle in those areas. And just like you were saying, we're all in different spots in our journeys. And like you, when I first became a Christian, I felt like I had to just have it all figured out, and that I got this. And so I was acting like what other Christians were acting like, and it was an act. And so being able to really focus on that real relationship with Jesus, and just letting him be the Holy Spirit, letting the Holy Spirit do what he does, and me step out of that, instead of displaying to the world like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, so therefore I have got this all figured out. No, it's just, it is a journey, and it is something, even at 33 years old, that I'm still being worked on intensely with, and that I still struggle with. And being able to let those guards down, because it, for me, is an intense fear of failure that arrives from that, and failing my kids, failing in my homeschooling, failing on YouTube, failing at just being what I feel like everybody needs me to be. But
Wow.
when I can
Yeah.
hang up all those uniforms and just give them to God, work through me to be what I need to be for everybody who needs me. Because I don't have the strength all in myself. I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
And being open to that and being vulnerable with him, like you were saying, is just, it's so huge. But at the same time, leaving room for improvement and allowing
Absolutely.
God to give us those victories where we need them. Like, I'm not an organized person, but I want to be a more organized person. That's something I
Yes.
desire just for my own anxiety, because while I am a disorganized person, disorganization stresses me out at the same time. It's like,
Girl, we are the same.
seriously, I will look at my homeschool area after it's just been demolished because I'm like stacking books on top of each other instead of just putting them away where they belong. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, and I don't know where to start. I'm just like, it's so overwhelming. I don't know where to start.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, God, please help me to be better in this. And I can also look to
Yes.
other people for inspiration, maybe a system that actually sticks and is sustainable in
Yes.
my life.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. But to pretend, take a picture of my perfectly organized space and be like, this is what my space looks like all the time. Don't ask me about in an hour, but this is what it looks like now, I feel like social media is just a huge driver in that these days, but it's something that people have struggled with from the beginning of time. And that's why people felt like they didn't need a savior. I don't need a savior.
So
I got
right.
it all figured out.
Following all the laws. I'm good.
Exactly.
I'm doing
Yes. Like Pharisees, I'm following these laws. Great. I don't need this Jesus guy who is he was perfect, but he came completely differently than what everybody was expecting him to be. He came as this lowly servant as opposed to this big shining king, because he paid the whole price for us. He came as a man, and while he followed God's laws perfectly, he was the only man to do that. He came in a very humble way. And so therefore we should be more humble in our walks, because when we're expecting perfectionism out of ourselves, it is a form of self. It is a form of self-exaltation, because we are exalting ourselves above what Jesus already did for us. And it should give us freedom to realize that. It should give us the sense of, I don't have to strive toward this anymore. That is such a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. And just giving it all back to him. And I love that you brought in the other side of perfectionism too, being the double-edged sword, where you were talking about sometimes, it can go both ways. Exactly what you said, where we all are so different and we all have such different gifts. And so I can take from a mama one of her systems and use it and try and implement it in my home and apply. Yeah. Either way, bring it into our home.
Yes.
Those mamas who are gifted in areas that I'm not.
Right.
And it's beautiful because we can all work together in that. Like, it is such a beautiful thing. That's the whole point of this community, is moms bringing their gifts and different systems and different things that work for them and how they use them and apply them in their home to work and to function well. And it's such a thing where I don't want the perfectionism to lead me to laziness, because there is always room for growth. There's always room for growth. I'm not going to say I'm a perfectionist, so I'm done organizing. Like, here's my bedroom floor and all my clothes everywhere. No. Like, I can still work toward improving those. There's always room for improvement in different areas, but accepting who I am and not carrying the weight and the wardrobes, like you said, the uniforms of all these other people, and thinking that those are mine. I'm going to put on organization. I'm going to put on, what's another one? Interior decorating. I don't know. I'm just thinking of like random things that I'm just going to put on myself and think that these are all things I have to wear and just whip them out at any given moment in any given conversation. And the truth is, I'm here right now just as I am. And there's such beauty when we all can just rest in that.
So we covered a bunch of different facets of perfectionism, and we could go on and on about this. And I think we should probably have another episode just dedicated to some of the other facets of perfectionism and just how it really infiltrates our entire lives and what it means as a Christian who struggles with perfectionism. But we hope that you guys enjoyed this discussion. We hope that it was edifying to you and that it always points it back to Christ, that he is our righteousness alone, and that all of our strivings, all of the ways that we fall short even, are not going to ever compare to what he has already done on the cross. So don't ever feel badly if you fall short, because God loves us right where we are. So I hope same.
Yeah.
So we hope that you guys have a very blessed week. As a reminder, you can find us on YouTube if you are listening at Motherhood on Purpose podcast. We are also on any of your streaming devices. Streaming platforms.
Yes.
We are also found on any of your podcast streaming platforms. And we also have an Instagram, Motherhood on Purpose podcast. It is very sad looking right now, but we should.
That's okay. We
would love for you. We just started. So bear with us, like us over there, and definitely comment down below. Let us know some of the ways that maybe you struggle with perfectionism or what you have found to be encouraging in your battle against perfectionism. We always love hearing from you guys. So as always.
And I do want to add really quick, if you are an Instagram mom and you have different systems and things that work in your home that you would love to share with us, tag us in your posts. We would love to see, we would love to interact with you over on that space as well. You know, anything you're working on or challenges maybe that you have set for yourself, depending on different conversations and discussions we've had, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to tag us in anything at Motherhood on Purpose podcast over on Instagram if you are, in fact, an Instagram mama as well.
Absolutely, 100%. We would love to hear from you guys. So we hope that you have an incredibly blessed week, and we will see you back in 2 weeks for episode 5. Look at us go. Yay.
It's going to be a good one, guys.
Yes, it is. So be sure to tune back here in 2 weeks. So be blessed, guys, and we will talk to you later. And so I just lost my train of thought.
We are not perfectionists.
Yay, we are not. I am obviously not very perfect at opening up a podcast. So here is my first example. Okay, well, that wraps up our discussion. Why do I sound like?
Well, I'm the same. Like, what?
Why am I talking into the mic like this?
Yeah.
Well,
hello.
I'm so awkward.
Oh my goodness. Okay. No, this is awesome.
Okay. So we dived. It's dived word. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm educating my children.
Homeschool mom right here.
Don't you say anything about my education levels. Okay.